You know what beef is?
Oh, I love it.
All right, cool. So, how much beef and dairy products would you say you consume every week?
I eat a lot of beef. It's pretty good.
And dairy products about like once a day, maybe twice a day?
That considers cheese, milk?
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Daily stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know the science behind global warming and greenhouse effect? No.
No idea.
No idea?
I actually don't know.
Oh, okay.
Am I supposed to know?
It's not crucial that you know, but it is important. So, do you know the science behind the greenhouse effect and global warming? Do you want to explain it, or just like a simple thing?
Go ahead.
That's okay, you can go.
Okay. Basically CO2 is like released into the atmosphere, which affects the ozone layer and all that stuff. That's pretty much it.
So, what does the greenhouse effect do in regards to global climate change?
The greenhouse gas effect, it traps heat in our environment.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. All right, next question. So, did you know that beef and dairy industries are the #1 contributor to the greenhouse gases and habitat destruction?
I knew that dairy was, but I did not know beef was.
Interesting. And what do you think could be done about that?
I think we can reduce the production of beef and dairy.
Mm-hmm. And mostly that just comes down to whether you eat it or not. Because when you eat it, it means another cow has to be raised so that you can have more of it.
Yeah.
So, did you know that beef and dairy are the largest contributors of greenhouse gas emissions, habitat destruction, and water pollution in America?
No, I did not. I didn't know it polluted water or caused global warming.
Well, a lot of people think it's cow farts that produce methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas, but it's actually the cows burping. It's kind of the same thing.
They burp in it.
Yeah, they burp and it has methane in it. And because there are so many cows on our planet, it's so much methane. And methane is about 20 times more destructive than carbon dioxide, which is what most people know about as a greenhouse gas.
Dang.
Some pretty destructive stuff.
Lethal burps.
Lethal burps. So you know what methane is, I assume? Yeah? So methane works the same as carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, but the bad thing about methane is that it is 20 times better at trapping heat inside our atmosphere. It is incredibly destructive to the way that things are set up because the Earth is made to, to function at a specific temperature, and things go crazy whenever it gets out of that certain range.
Perfect Goldilocks range.
Yeah. The Earth is Goldilocks. You know that the livestock industry is one of the biggest contributors of greenhouse gases like methane to the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cows, yes.
It's about 18%.
No doubt.
Now, if you can imagine a giant animal like a cow that weighs 800 to 1,000 pounds, drinks a ton of water.
Yeah.
So, do you know how much water? What's your best guess on how much water to raise one beef cow?
I personally would say 800,000 gallons.
800,000 gallons from birth till slaughter?
Yeah.
It's about 3 million gallons of water.
Okay.
That's a ton of water. And if there are about 1.5 billion cows on Earth, and approximately half of those are beef cows, that means that it's about 225 trillion gallons of water
for just to raise them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all fresh water that other people need for drinking and surviving.
Pure water.
Yeah. How much water do you think it requires to raise one cow for beef?
I'd assume probably a lot, since it's all the plants that it eats, and obviously it needs to drink water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the most recent estimate done by the UN was that the total amount of water used to produce used to raise one cow is about 3 million gallons of water.
Holy shit.
If there was a comparable alternative to beef that was more sustainable and not as destructive to our planet, would you make an effort to eat that more than regular beef?
Depends if it was similar in taste and texture and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But most likely.
I'd say, yeah,
Also, price is a huge factor. If
Yes.
it was more expensive, not many people would actually
Right.
go for it. If it was less expensive, more people would choose it just because it's not as expensive.
Mm-hmm. In the past year, or about a year and a half ago, it cost approximately $300,000 to create one lab-grown patty of beef, and this year it costs about $11 per patty.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
But it doesn't taste good yet because the beef of the cow is it has a structure to it. All of the proteins and all of the fat and tendons go together in a way that is really hard for us to replicate because we only have a couple types of cells that we can harvest from the cows that can actually grow into the cow beef. So we are working on a solution to make that taste better and to turn it into actual beef. It's possible. It'll be rather difficult, but it is a possibility for the future. So it's a reason for us to be optimistic. If there was a comparable alternative to beef, like if they made veggie burgers that tasted like real beef, or something like lab-grown meat where they were able to replicate the structure of the food with all of the proteins and everything, would you be willing to switch?
Yes. Probably not for the veggie burgers because we have such a high protein intake, and especially as doing martial arts, it requires a lot of protein to keep up your body and the BMI.
Yeah.
So if they kept all the proteins and stuff in it, yeah, I'd probably switch.
Mm-hmm. Now there are a lot of proteins in veggie burgers, but it's just acquired different ways, and it's not as protein rich, but it's still up there. So if there was like a comparable alternative to beef that tasted the same and didn't pollute the environment as much, would you make an effort to eat more of that?
Absolutely. If it was the same taste and the same consistency, sure.
Yeah.
Sure that'll happen someday.
Right. In the past couple years, it went from the cost of growing a patty of beef in a lab went from around $300,000 to about $11 per patty.
You ever listen to a show called Freakonomics?
I have not. I think I've heard of it.
It's from some guys that are scientists and economists, and they've had whole podcasts on this. I've listened to whole podcasts on from the guy that's the leading producer of artificial meat in the U.S. So yeah, I've heard a lot about this.
Cool. Now they don't have the consistency down yet because it takes a lot of different types of proteins.
They're getting close, though.
Yeah. And besides alternatives, would you be willing to reduce beef consumption altogether, even a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I'd probably switch to more fish because fish is one of the things that I really enjoy. However, it's still harmful for the environment as there's a lot of overfishing in the U.S. just in general.
Right.
U.S., Japan, other island nations like Australia is really bad. And I know Tokyo has like, I think 1.3 million pounds of fish that they overfish.
That's a lot of fish. And fish farms are pretty destructive too because of all of that fish poop that's going everywhere, and they have to put it out into the rivers and stuff.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to keep it all together.
Right. That's about it. Cool. Thank you, Zach. This is the wrong hand. Cool. Have a great day. So we do have a global problem on the planet, and there's so many things that could be solved by not eating meat and switching to a more, plant-based diet. Based on all of this, would you be willing to reduce your meat and dairy consumption?
If the government had incentives, maybe, but at the moment, because I'm going to be running, I can't. All other athletes are not going to be reducing their consumption of meat and dairy, and if I reduce mine, I will be left in the dust. I cannot reduce mine. It is healthy for a human being to bulk up, and with the training that I do, to eat that kind of meat and protein.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And based on all of this information, would you be willing to reduce dairy consumption altogether?
I can reduce some of my dairy consumption, but I know a lot of it's important for
It is very
calcium.
important, yeah. There are a lot of supplements though, like
Yeah.
vitamins and different like nuts and stuff for protein and calcium.
Yeah, that's very true.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would either of you be willing to reduce the amount of beef and dairy that you consume?
Yes, but it probably won't be too noticeable. Like, maybe we won't get like a gallon off of it, but like we won't negate usage entirely.
Right. But every little bit helps. Yeah. Everything helps. Thank you so much, guys.
No problem.
Do you shake, Grace?
Yeah. Grace.
Oh, she does. That's pretty cool.
Grace, sit.
Sit. Sit. Come on, you're on camera. Sit. There you go.
Oh.
Shake. Now with him.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, guys.
Good girl.